and it is a pleasure to be here again this year at Vibrant Tamilnadu. The advertised title of my talk is supposed to be FDA registration and requirements, but I have changed this a little bit because registration is just one part of what you need to export your goods to the US. There are actually many more aspects of selling goods successfully that are required by the US authorities and actually required by American people or even Indian American people. So that's why my talk is about successfully navigating the US FDA. So very simply, if you really want to export goods, all you got to do is get a purchase order, pack the goods, find a freight forwarder, put it on the ship, and send it. But the problem with that is, once the goods land in the US, you have all of the regulatory issues over there. And a big part of that is the United States Food and Drug Administration. So the FDA will check if you, the food processor, the manufacturer, the exporter, is your facility registered with the FDA before the shipment leaves Indian shores. Once it has arrived in the US, they want to make sure that the food is safe, and if they decide they want to do it, they will tell us, the importers, to send specific products of yours to a US-based lab, get it tested, make sure it is absolutely safe, and then we can sell it. But if the lab determines that the food is not safe, then they give us two options. They tell us either destroy the entire shipment right there in the US in the presence of a federal officer, or ship it as is back to the country of origin. This is my starting slide because it is critically important. We had a problem with one of our shipments many years ago, one particular shipment where we imported some coconut water, full container load of coconut water in Tetra Paks. It turned out that that particular exporter had not registered with the FDA. The coconut water itself was perfectly fine, but absolutely no problem with it. But because the facility was not registered, they said the shipment needs to be either destroyed or shipped back. Now in this particular case, the exporter did not want the coconut water shipped back to India. So we had to destroy it in the US. Now we're talking about thousands of cases, tens of thousands of Tetra Paks, individually had to be cut and opened in the presence of an FDA officer. So finally, after a few hours, one of my staff had an idea. Listen, this is going to take 3 or 4 days. Let's line up all the coconut water cases in a line and run a truck over it. And that's what we had to do. So Mr. Rajan, I mean, this is where you are absolutely right. This is where it comes from, the need for us to speak about this in a forum like here. Because even small things like a technicality, when the product is absolutely sterile, absolutely safe, we can be in a lot of trouble. So really this talk is in 3 parts. What is the US FDA? Is this, the problems that we talk about, are they specific to India? Absolutely not. They happen in the US as well. They happen everywhere in the world, food safety issues, which is what the FDA is concerned about. And then, of course, what do we do about it? What do you all do about it as exporters? How do you navigate these technicalities and the food safety aspects? So as Mr. Rajan said, my name is Ken Vaz. I have a PhD in electrical engineering. I was a staff scientist with the federal government for 5 years ago, which is when I quit my job and joined my family business, Babco Foods. We are the largest importer and distributor of South Indian food in the United States. We cover 46 of the 50 US states, and I head several of our corporate divisions, including sales. As regards FDA and food safety, I am trained by FDA's FSMA, in FDA FSMA, which is the Food Safety Modernization Act, and a couple of their provisions, and also in HACCP and GMP. And this is what I try to implement both in my company and with our suppliers in India and abroad. The FDA is the United States Food and Drug Administration. We are concerned with the food part of the FDA, but they also deal with pharmaceuticals, everything from manufacturing to safety to sales and all of that stuff. Their job is to protect the American public from food hazards, drug hazards, and radiation safety hazards. So essentially, they are the gatekeeper. They ensure that anything coming into the US or manufactured in the US and consumed by the American public is safe for the American public. The FDA also, for the last many years, has field offices all across the world, including in New Delhi, which is very, very active. And pretty much all of my suppliers have had their factories in India audited by the FDA in multi-day audits. So what the FDA does is regulated, or really is started by the United States Congress, which is Parliament in the US. They set the laws, the FDA implements and enforces these laws, and the FDA traditionally has been involved in the supply chain aspect. They would go in and take a look there. FDA itself has research and development, but they also look into research and development that is done. Now the FDA has become significantly more involved and active in looking at manufacturing all the way down before supply chain. And they also conduct audits worldwide. So their job is food consumed by Americans. If it is consumed by Americans, they're in it. And the reason that they are really interested in this is, first of all, pathogens, germs, illness caused by these. People who live in different countries have different levels of immunity. So somebody in the US may not have the same immunity to germs here in India or vice versa. So that is really where food exports or food, globalized food, has a little bit of a problem, and we have to observe certain fundamental safety rules. So in this particular case, a significant percentage of food safety or food illnesses come from listeria, milk, cheese, water. Salmonella is a major issue that we have, especially in spices and vegetables, because of their very nature. Salmonella grows in fields. We use manure, organic fertilizer, and it is essentially unavoidable. But these spices and vegetables can be cleaned and they can be treated. So what exactly is the FDA looking at? Well, the FDA is looking at, on the technical side, they want to make sure that your food facilities are registered with them before you do anything else. This is a technical procedure. There are forms to fill out. Everything is electronic, but it has to be done. They then check for pathogens. They check for adulterants. They check for filth. If you're exporting seafood, juices, dairy products, pickles, there are certain technical requirements for pH levels, for example, and all of these need to be taken care of prior to sending your goods overseas. Now, what if some of these are not taken care of? It is instantaneous rejection by the FDA. The food is not allowed in the US, it's not allowed to be sold, it is not allowed to be consumed. For us in business, this means that the containers go on hold while the lab tests are done. If the containers go on hold, our cash flow is blocked, our sales is blocked. We don't want that to happen. The lab tests for every single product costs about $550. So if FDA says, you've exported 25 products, we need you to send these 10 products into the lab for testing, automatically we're talking about $5,500 just for lab testing, and all of us here in the food business, we know that our margins are not that good. So we need to be extra careful that we sort these problems out beforehand. More damaging, if we keep importing or exporting products that have trouble that the FDA keeps looking at. There are importer blacklists in the US, there are exporter blacklists, there are product blacklists. So one notorious example, and I hate to say it, the FDA has on permanent, well, not a blacklist, but on permanent FDA that they look at is sambar powder. Anytime on a packing list, a bill of lading, an invoice, they see the word sambar, it automatically goes on what's called detention. Sambar is detained, you must send it to the lab, you must get it cleared, make sure there's no salmonella. So that is, unfortunately, for all of us over here from South India, all of our sambar coming to the US always gets detained. And another agency is the United States Department of Agriculture. So the USDA is more responsible for agricultural products like rice especially. And they are looking at pesticide levels, they're looking for, in rice, capra beetles, essentially plants and animals that are not native to the United States, that are brought into the US, are regulated by the USDA. So I know this is a talk about the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, but I wanted to throw the USDA in here also because this is something we do have to be concerned about. So what exactly is going on in America with food? I made this slide a few days ago because I was looking for the latest problems that have happened, and this is from the last 2 weeks. A major cookie firm, biscuits, Entenmann's Cookies, had to recall their Little Bites cookies because there was pieces of plastic found in some of the batches. So there was a national recall to get back from the stores all of these cookies. This particular recall was because of contamination with foreign matter. This is not salmonella, this is not illness, but it is something that is hazardous to health. But a giant company has had this problem. Another one were chicken strips, chicken tenders. This was recalled not because, again, anything was wrong with the chicken strips themselves. They were perfectly safe to eat. But some people have allergies to different food items. In this particular case, there were undeclared allergens used in the batter of the chicken strips, which were soy products, milk, and eggs. Can you make chicken strips with soy products, milk, and eggs? Absolutely. Do you need to put it on the label? Yes, you have to put it on the label. And for this product made in the US, the manufacturer had forgotten to put on the back panel of the package allergen information. So if one person gets sick, gets an anaphylactic shock and dies, that's a major liability problem. So again, on a technicality, this particular product was recalled from the entire US, from all stores. The third was fennel seeds, whole fennel seeds. I believe in Tamil it's called swambu. And this product was recalled because of salmonella present in it. So here we had a pathogen issue, so there was a recall. So the idea of this slide is to tell you all that there are multiple reasons why food products can be recalled, and they are not all because of pathogens. There are technical stuff also that have to be paid attention to. This, on this slide, is what we, my family and I, get most often from our Indian Americans. They tell us, we are Indian. We want Indian food, but we are also American, give us American quality. And it makes sense to me because in the US, we shop at Walmart on one hand, we shop at Amazon on the other hand, but we also have to buy our Indian groceries from supermarket chains like Patel Brothers and India Bazaar, and they try to maintain the standard as best as they can inside the store. Whatever they provide to us, they keep it at an American level. But what goes in those packets, the frozen idiyappam in the freezers, the sambar powder on the shelves, what's inside the packets is up to all of us in this room. We have to ensure that standard, and that is what our customers are looking for. So this is actually a notorious example in the US. This happened in 2008. There was a company called Peanut Corporation of America. They were responsible for producing about 2.5% of all peanuts that were consumed in the US. I mean, this is a massive number, even though it's only 2.5%. But in 2008, because of their peanuts, there was a massive salmonella outbreak. And this salmonella outbreak killed 9 people and 714 people got sick. The problem really was that the people who worked, the higher ups in Peanut Corporation of America, knew that their peanuts were tainted with salmonella. And having this knowledge, they still sold the products without sterilizing them, without making them sanitary, without sourcing them without the contaminants. So because of this, the founder of Peanut Corporation America was sentenced to 28 years in prison, and the quality control manager had escaped by then, but they caught her, and she was also sentenced to a prison term. So they don't let this kind of stuff go, and with good reason. So it not only affects us in trade and business, but it is the lives of people that we do put to risk on a daily basis. So the FDA and the United States Congress have upgraded their game in 2011. President Obama signed into law what is called the FDA Food Safety Modernization Act, FSMA, which we call FSMA. FSMA takes food safety to a whole new level in the US, and this affects every American manufacturer, producer, supplier, vendor, and all of us overseas as well, because now they are looking at farm to table, the entire supply chain, to make sure that everything that is procured and sourced is actually legitimate, it is safe, it is okay to consume. And FSMA has many provisions which are a little more arduous, a little more difficult than they were in the past. But these can also be pretty easily navigated if you look at it in the right manner. So having said that, and introduced FSMA in that way, what do we do? How do we sell our products in the US? Well, this is what you do. It's a pretty straightforward checklist. It really does boil down to a few key points. Technicality, register your food facility with the FDA. Anything that is canned, any pickles, any dairy, juice, seafood, there are additional requirements that you have to make sure are met according to the US FDA standards before you export. Find a good trading partner, somebody who's knowledgeable, or use a consulting firm and use them to help you figure out what is needed. The technical details, like we saw on that slide about the recalls, about that there not be any plastic pieces in the biscuits, allergen information, nutrition labels, make sure all of those, pH, moisture content, make sure those are taken care of before you send the food out. And the truth really is, these are requirements of the US FDA, but the same applies anywhere in the world. The same applies here. The same applies to any food you would sell here in Madurai. It's really the same stuff. So really critical is food safety for all of us who are food processors. And in order to maintain food safety, have a food safety plan and get it professionally done, and then follow it. Have a system, follow that system. If you are exporting to the US, you will be audited by an FDA officer. It may not happen this year, it may not happen next year, it may happen 5 years from now, but they will come to your facility, they will let you know in advance, the certain number of dates, usually it is 3 days. They will tell you where they're coming, they will ask you, is there a good hotel close by, what airport do I come to? They'll ask you for your help. And they will come to your factory, they will look at your records, they'll look at your food safety plan, and they will go through everything. And if you're already following those requirements, a food safety plan, you're fine. You'll be okay. So there's a lot of different food safety programs across the world. There is ISO 22000, there's BRC for Britain, there's GFSI, GMP and HACCP are usually parts of ISO, BRC, GFSI, SQF. So any of these various food safety accreditation bodies and consultants you would find who will develop food safety programs for you will make all of these food safety plans. They will give you all the forms that you have to fill in on a daily basis to make sure that yes, we have checked the pH, yes, the floors have been cleaned with certain parts per million of bleach. You make sure that there are no pathogens, you are storing your food in a certain manner, you have pest control. So all of these will be told to you by your food safety consultants to be part of your plan. And that is what FDA's FSMA program is about. They want to make sure that you have all of these things lined up and you are following them. Therefore, it stands to reason that the food products you manufacture are going to be safe to eat. There's a phrase in Hindi, it's called chalta hai. Chalta hai, you know? Very often I see with my suppliers also, or prospective suppliers, that this attitude happens. It's a short circuit. I visited a factory in Mumbai about 2 or 3 years ago. Snacks manufacturer for a couple of big companies here in India. They're a contract manufacturer. And one thing that jumped out to me, I understand the space in Bombay is very crowded, real estate is very expensive, and I appreciate that. I appreciate the amount of effort they put into making their organization work. But after packing all of the snack products, they were stored outside in the courtyard under a tarpaulin next to an open sewer. When I went behind the place to check out where they stored the cardboard boxes, there was rat's urine on the cardboard boxes. I mean, it doesn't work out, and these people are actually serious manufacturers, and they sell a lot of their products. But it's that chalta hai attitude. It doesn't really work, because at some point there is going to be a lab test or somebody's going to get sick. So, sanitation at every level, farm to table. If it's from the fields, there are going to be pathogens. Clean them. Treat the products with ETO, steam sterilization. Gamma rays is what most of my suppliers use for masalas and for spices. Hygiene, cleanliness, sterilization of your workspaces, where you prepare food, the food preparation surfaces, the floors where you store your food. Cross-contamination, please do not put prepared food and raw food in the same place, on the same tables. You will cross-contaminate. I have had products where that has happened. Fried food, there's a Gujarati product called kachori. It's a hard round shell with a soft filling inside, contaminated with salmonella, but this was deep fried. It's because the inside filling does not reach 165 degrees Fahrenheit to kill the pathogens. The outside was perfectly fine, but the stuffing on the inside was still loaded with salmonella. So please do not cross-contaminate between production runs with your multi-head weighers. Please make sure all the surfaces are cleaned. So it's those kinds of ideas that would come up in your food safety plan when you have somebody professional come and evaluate. Technicalities like labeling. FDA has new labels that are required. I believe they are going to be phased in next year onwards, and they're going to be enforced next year, 2020. If the labels are not of the format all the way on that side, then automatically the FDA rejects any product manufactured in the US or abroad, because they must have this particular label with calories in big bold letters. We want added sugars to be shown, and these are good things for health reasons. There's a 132-page guide published by the FDA where they will tell you everything about this. But there are some important features that we catch on to also within these 132 pages. Over 90% of food in the US that is recalled because of allergens that are not declared. Again, it is perfectly fine to have any of these 8 major allergens: eggs, milk, wheat, peanuts, shellfish. You can sell them, you can eat them, you can put them in your food, no problem. But you have to tell the public on your product labels, on your packaging, that these particular items are present even if in tiny quantities, because some people genetically are just allergic to some of these items. So we don't want to cause them to have anaphylaxis and die. So it's a technical requirement, but needed. So how do we actually figure this out? Well, the FDA itself, on their website, has all the information that we would need. Except the truth is, it is a lot of information, and there is a lot of language that is very difficult to understand, because that is typically how government organizations are. You can always get food safety experts, outside consultants to come in, Or if you're able to have somebody who is qualified in food science to work in your facility, you have your own in-house quality control, quality assurance personnel. Or you can also hire a good consultant or have a good trading partner who can help you out with this. It is important to find somebody who understands you, what you are doing specifically, where you are from, what your facilities are like, what your products are like, because that guidance is going to be more specifically geared towards what you are doing. I have a company called USR Global. We can help you out with all of your FDA and USDA and export needs as well. You're welcome to contact us. This is really, it comes down to this. Don't wait for FDA India to come and audit your facility. Your food safety plan is important. As Rajan sir said, this talk is not just about registering your facility, but I wanted to talk to you all about why it is important to do it. So I believe if you understand the reason why we are going through all this arduous process, it really boils down to a few simple things. Have that food safety plan, follow it on a day-to-day basis, ensure that these simple steps are actually done, so you're not waiting till the last minute when something goes wrong, or if you are going to have an audit. Don't wait till then. Just do it every single day. There are small things that you would do. Monitor your raw material, monitor your production units. You are going to get audited. It is not going to cost you an arm and a leg to invest in sanitation, to invest in pest control, to invest in hygiene. We do this at home. Let's do this where we work as well. Whatever you do have to do, you got to install a water filter, you got to do things like that. They are not complicated, they're not expensive, but any money you put in, remember, you're exporting to the US. You are going to get a return on your investment soon. It is worth it. info@usrglobal.com. You are welcome to send us an email. We are happy to help you out. If you are trading with Babco Foods directly, we will take care of everything for you. Anything about USDA registration on their website, which can be complicated, labeling requirements, technical requirements, my team and I know these things. USDA, United States Department of Agriculture as well. Even with customs, we have partners who can get us answers as we need. We have been in business a long time, so we can help you all out also. And if you want me to boil this whole talk down into one sentence, it's something I ask my staff. It's something I tell everybody who works with us, my family says it. Would you feed the food that you are making to your own family with confidence? If the answer is no, don't sell it. If the answer is yes, we have no problems. That's what I got for you. Jai Hind, God bless America.
Thank you, sir. Any questions?
Wonderful presentation, Ken.
Thank you.
So, sir, my question is, so there are certain parameters that FDA is checking there, right? Say, for example, if I'm exporting rice or sambar powder, so they have a list of parameters like what kind of pesticides, all those they test in the lab, right?
Yes,
so
they do.
is it out in the open website where I can download and see, okay, these are the parameters FDA is going to check, so let me check it here before I ship it to the US. Can I do that?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Everything, all FDA requirements, all US Department of Agriculture requirements are open source, or really they're, it's in the US it's called the Freedom of Information Act. So these are public domain documents. You're absolutely able to go to their websites, get all of the information, and it's available. It's available beforehand.
Okay.
So a lot of my suppliers actually, whether we tell them what the parameters are or they find out themselves, they send their products to labs in India, for example, SGS, and they get these products tested, and only then they export. So some of my suppliers do this for every single shipment, for every single product. There is a delay in lead time, but we accept that because it ensures that the products are not defective when they come to the US, and we don't have any issues of them being rejected.
Okay.
Having said that, US FDA does not accept lab results from any country except from the US, and even then specific labs that are registered and then audited by the FDA within the US. So if there is a product that comes and that goes on FDA's detention or hold list, we have to send it to a lab that is registered with them, and those lab results are then sent back directly to the US FDA.
Okay. And the other question I had was, like, you spoke about the various certifications, like the ISO 22000,
Yes.
HACCP. So if I take ISO 22000 or or any one of these certification, will it fall in line with FSMA? Or do I have to take all of this to fall in line with FSMA?
The answer is neither of those, because ISO 22000, BRC, SQF in the US, all of these are, I would call it a subset of FSMA. So if FSMA has, for example, 10 requirements, ISO is going to fulfill, say, 7 of them. Don't take me literally, but I mean it as a subset of the whole thing. So it will prepare you and give you pretty much everything, close to everything that you would need to be FSMA compliant. FSMA itself, there are training courses. I don't know if these have reached India yet or if they've reached other countries. They're available in the United States. It's a multi-day course. But if you have ISO 22000, you are very well prepared for FSMA and for a FSMA audit. HACCP, GMP are further subsets of ISO 22000 or BRC, and then the way I view it, then there is FSMA. So there's a few different levels over there.
Thank
if
you.
that helps.
Yeah, thank you, Ken. And one last question, Ken. You know, having been in the US for so many years, I know US is a country of lawsuits. So if there is ever a lawsuit, so how does a trader from here in India like deal with it? Will the importer help us do it, or, like, you know, how does it work?
If a US importer gets sued for something food-based, if I get sued in the US, I am named in the lawsuit, as are you. We are both in trouble, is what happens. So whether the importer will help you out, well, that's something that you have to figure out with your trading partner. But the truth is, this is also why we have liability insurance.
Okay. Okay, gotcha. Thank you, sir.
Very good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
I am a rice manufacturer from Madurai. We have formed a exclusive company for trading activity of rice for export purpose mainly. And how does the FDA control the trading activity?
Trading in which sense, sir? How do you mean?
No, I am a rice manufacturer.
Yeah.
For export purpose, we have formed an exclusive brand and a company.
Okay.
That company does only trading.
As a merchant exporter?
Yes.
As a merchant exporter, if you are gathering the rice, you are packing, and then you are selling it, you are responsible for the safety of the rice that
The
you are.
manufacturer or the traders?
Now, in this particular case, if you are involved in any portion of manufacturing, you are handling the food product in any way, then you are liable for the safety of that, because you are the last point of contact who have handled the food prior to it being exported. So in this case, you would have to make sure that the sources you procure your rice from have rice that is quality controlled, that meets the different, actually it would be USDA in your case for raw rice, to meet those USDA pesticide and pest capra beetle requirements.
Should the manufacturer and I'm the manufacturer and the trader. I'm playing a dual role. If I'm a manufacturer, I need to get FDA for both licenses.
You have to register for the FDA, but if you are not processing it, suppose you are taking rice or any product, suppose you're making a pampori. Now, absolutely, whomever is milling that, whomever is whomever is packing that, are both responsible for the safety of that product. So that particular person, that particular entity is going to be responsible to the FDA. And that particular entity will be audited, that particular entity has to be registered. So in this case, if you are just a buyer of rice and you are not packing anything, somebody else is packing, somebody else has a brand, you are the, for example, export division for that rice house. In that case, it is that rice house that has to be registered, and they are responsible for the safety of the product because you are not handling it. As soon as you start handling the actual product, it is your responsibility.
If I am a merchant exporter, so I don't have to register myself in the FTA.
As a merchant exporter, if you register yourself, there is no harm in doing that.
Okay.
When the FDA will come to me first, then to you, and then they will go to whom you are buying from. Now, those whom you are buying from, suppose you are procuring from 5 different mills, all of them have to be registered with the FDA.
Okay.
If they are not registered and you're procuring from mills that are not registered with the FDA, then you are going to be in trouble with them.
Okay. Gotcha.
It trickles down now.
So one.
So hi, Ken.
Hi, Baston.
So you were discussing a lot about salmonella in your presentation.
Yes, sir.
So I recently had an issue with salmonella.
Okay.
So salmonella is naturally an air microbial particle.
Okay.
Is it right? No, what happens is like we do a lot of sterilizing process here and pack it and send it. Since it's a air microbial particle in the airport or port, or even when the testing they take it out, when they open the packing, the air microbials gets contaminated in the powder or any other form. So how to avoid that thing?
From what I understand, salmonella is not transmitted by air. It is transmitted by poop in the fields. It is transmitted by it is in the manure from animals. It is that is where salmonella comes from. I guess the word in this public forum would be caca. So that is, you have to be careful about salmonella in that manner. So by exposure to air, it's not going to get salmonella, which is why you have to treat it. You have to wash the vegetables, always wash vegetables. If you have already ground spices, you can't avoid it. At that point, if there is solid particulate matter, I hope you have washed it beforehand. But if it is microbial pathogens, at that point, once it is ground, once it is processed, all you can do is ETO treat it, steam sterilize, or most effectively gamma ray irradiate. Then you will kill those bacterial germs.
So gamma rays doesn't affect the nutrition content of a particular product?
Not at all, no.
Not.
No. It affects the living cells. So it is bad for us, it is bad for anything else living. In the packet of sambar, it is going to affect only anything living in it, because in sambar powder, nothing should be living.
Yes.
Gamma ray takes care of that.
Okay. Fine. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Very good noon, sir. Sir, so being a new fresher in export, so I'd like to ask few things like, do we have test labs in Chennai in around Tamilnadu, which is registered under FDA, so before to do export?
That's a very specific question. I'm sure there are labs, but the truth is, FDA does not accept lab results from any lab outside the US. Mm-hmm. And even within the US, it accepts results only from very specific labs.
Okay.
So when we test our products here in India in any lab, ultimately in the US, it is just a feel-good thing for us. It gives us a sense of confidence that the products we are exporting or importing most likely are going to be okay. But the results officially accepted by the FDA are only specific labs in the US.
Okay, thank you. The second question is like, so do you have any association or organization, will they provide the list of buyers in US?
That is, that's a great question. I don't know of any such list, but if I come across something, I will let you know.
Thank you so much.
One more, and then the gentleman back over there.
So very good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
So we are manufacturing organic based millet product cookies,
Okay.
and instant mix, millet instant mix. So we are a manufacturer and we are planning to export to your country. So my question is, when we purchasing a raw material, how we can authenticate or we can get certification from farmers or this thing? That is also required. This is the manufacturer's responsibility.
It is, you mean certification for organic?
Yeah.
So organic certification, I believe, is done by the USDA, the United States Department of Agriculture, not the FDA.
Okay.
So the USDA has a list of requirements for it.
Okay.
And those have to be followed, and then you would have to register with the USDA directly and showing that these requirements have indeed been fulfilled.
Okay.
And then you can be, then you'll be listed in their official guide.
Okay. So from raw material to up to packing, it is our responsibility.
Yes, sir.
So with every stage, we have to certify the things.
For
correctly.
organic, especially now, there was a scandalous case some years ago for products that were transshipped through Turkey. And the particular company in Turkey was taking non-organic produce
Yes, sir.
and stamping it and saying it was organic because they had organic license and then exporting.
Okay.
So now from the farm all the way to final packing is required.
Okay. Second question, only one. Then, what is the shelf life of this particular product, like cookies? We are now we are achieved up to 9 months. But what is your requirement, like cookies? How we calculate that part in our case?
Okay, shelf life really depends on, okay, let's put it this way. Shelf life is not a safety requirement.
Okay, sir.
Shelf life is what we traders do because we believe our consumers want certain quality of the product.
Okay.
For example, I sell banana chips.
Okay.
My banana chips, I have 18-month shelf life.
Okay.
Now, if you buy banana chips from some local person making them over here, and you keep it at home with the packet open, within 3, 4, 5 days, it's going to taste stale and soft
Yeah.
because it has absorbed moisture from the ambient atmosphere.
Yes, sir.
If you keep it in a sealed packet for 15 days, 30 days, 45 days, it will start to smell rancid
Yes.
because the oil has oxidized or the product has oxidized.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So as far as the FDA is concerned, and technically in the United States,
Okay.
expiration date is not required by law
Okay, sir. Okay. Okay.
because we are trying to manage our consumers. So if you have a brand and I have a brand,
Yes, sir. Yeah.
if my consumers say that, oh, this brand, everything I eat is stale, my brand is dead. So that is how we manage shelf life. So for my banana chips, they are filled with, in pouches with nitrogen,
With
like
nitrogen.
Lay's potato chips.
Yes,
It is an inert ambient atmosphere. So no oxidation can happen, no rancidity, I've got no staleness.
Oh.
That's how we keep it fresh. So same with cookies,
Yes, sir.
it's called modified atmosphere packaging, MAP.
MAP. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So now we are banned plastic, no? So then some other alternative resources we have to find and
Maybe aluminum foil inside. Plastic will give you maximum 3 months.
Yes, sir. That's all.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you. We will try.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.